So, have you ever been scrolling online and seen an idea just explode? Especially an idea that makes people really, really angry. Well, today we're diving into the hidden science of why that happens. It's a phenomenon called moral contagion.
You know the feeling, right? You're just scrolling through your feed and bam, you see something that just makes your blood boil and your thumb is already moving to hit that share button. It feels like a reflex. That impulse, that sudden, powerful urge, that's exactly what we're talking about. And it turns out it's not random at all. It's a core part of how we're wired. All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to start by defining this moral virus. Then we'll rewind the clock to see where this idea even came from. It's older than you think. After that, we'll look at the modern digital outrage machine, see how this pattern has played out throughout history, and finally ask the big question: can we actually fix this?
Okay, let's get right into it. What in the world is moral contagion? It sounds dramatic, I know, but researchers actually have a really specific two-part definition for how these feelings and ideas spread. So, it really breaks down into two separate but related concepts. First, you've got something called essence transfer. This is this deep gut feeling that morality is kinda sticky, like moral cooties. It's the reason you wouldn't want to wear a sweater owned by a terrible person. It just feels tainted. Then there's information diffusion, which is what we see lighting up our screens every single day. This is the idea of morality as a virus, where just sprinkling in a few key emotional words can make a message go absolutely viral.
Now you hear viral idea, and you immediately think social media, right? But believe it or not, the roots of this whole concept go back centuries, way back to some of the biggest thinkers of the Enlightenment.
This whole story really kicks off in the 1700s. You have philosophers like David Hume and Adam Smith trying to figure out sympathy, how we catch feelings from other people. Then, in the late 1800s, sociologists started noticing that all sorts of trends, everything from crime to fashion, spread through society in these predictable waves. But the really huge leap forward, the one that gave all this a biological basis, didn't happen until the 1990s.
And check this out. This is the quote that basically predicted it all. Way back in 1739, David Hume said, "Our minds are like mirrors, automatically reflecting the emotions of people around us." He had no way of knowing how right he was, but his intuition was just spot on.
And this is the science that showed Hume's mirror wasn't just a pretty metaphor. Neuroscientists discovered these things called mirror neurons. These are amazing little brain cells that fire not only when you do something, but also when you see someone else do it. So when you see a friend laugh, your brain literally simulates a little bit of that laughter. You see someone get hurt, you catch a tiny piece of that pain. It's the biological engine that drives empathy and emotional contagion.
So, okay, we've got this ancient biological system for catching feelings from each other. Now, what happens when you take that system and plug it into the high-speed global network of social media? Well, things get interesting.
Researchers have this handy way of thinking about it called the MAD model. M is for motivation. We share things that make us mad to signal who we are, to show which team we're on. A is for attention. Our brains are basically hardwired to scan for threats, so words like hate, shame, or evil jump out at us. And finally, D is for design. The platforms themselves are literally built to push forward whatever gets the most engagement. And let's be honest, nothing gets more engagement than outrage. And if you want to see just how powerful this is, look at this number. Studies found that for every single moral or emotional word you add to a post, its chance of being shared jumps by 20%. Think about that. Just one word can give it a 20% boost. It's a perfect storm of our psychology and the platform's design, basically guaranteeing that the most moralized, emotional content spreads the furthest. So, the tech might be new, but this pattern of moral contagion leading to mass panic, that is definitely not new. If we zoom out a bit, we can see this same dynamic playing out over and over again all through history. Seriously, once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Back in the 1820s, the contagious threat wasn't a disease. It was the very idea of freedom being spread by black sailors, which led to laws to have them jailed. In the 1690s, it was the fear of witchcraft that spread through Salem. Some of us remember the satanic panic of the 1980s, fueled by rumors and fear. And today, we see online conspiracies spill over into real-world violence. The fear changes, but the social engine driving it, it's the same. Wow, okay, that all sounds pretty dark. Which brings us to the most important question of all. Are we stuck with this? Is there anything we can actually do to tame the destructive side of moral contagion?
But first, before we talk about solutions, we have to add a really important piece of nuance here. Outrage is not always a bad thing. In fact, moral contagion can be an incredible force for good. It's a compass for our values. It's what mobilizes people to protect the vulnerable. It's what drives massive social reforms. The same force that powers a witch hunt can also power a civil rights movement. So the goal can't be to get rid of it, but maybe to manage its dark side.
And the way people are thinking about how to manage it is changing. For a long time, the advice was always aimed at us, the users. Just be more careful, think before you share. But now, policymakers are starting to realize that you can't just tell millions of people to swim against the current. You have to look at the systems that are creating the current in the first place.
And a really concrete example of this new way of thinking is the EU's Digital Services Act. This law isn't about telling people what they can or can't say. Instead, it goes right after the design part of that MAD model we talked about. It forces the giant platforms to open up the hood and show how their algorithms work, and it makes them more responsible for the harmful stuff that goes viral. The goal is to build a kind of digital resilience right into the system itself.
And that really brings us to the final thought. The digital world we live in wasn't an accident. It was designed, piece by piece, to maximize one thing, engagement. And it worked. But it had this massive side effect of pouring gasoline on our most divisive instincts. So the real question now is, do we have the will to redesign it? Can we build a digital world that's engineered not for outrage, but for understanding? Not for contagion, but for connection?